Hi there, thank you for joining us. It is the 5:30 primary news over La Télévision du Monde, the headlines. On this newscast, we shall be talking about representatives of the public and private sectors in Cameroon's business environment who have taken the commitment to contribute towards boosting the resilience of the enterprises in the country. This was during the 11th session of the Cameroon Business Forum, which held at the auditorium of the Prime Minister's office in Yaoundé. Over to the southwest region of the country, Southwest chiefs have called on the indigents of Bulu village to respect the verdict of the Supreme Court in the land case against the University of Boya. And out of the country, Nigeria's president has addressed the nation after more than 2 weeks of protest against police brutality and the government. This and many more will be on this edition of the 5:30 Primary News. Good evening once more, and thank you for joining us. The Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi on October 23rd released a communique calling on the promoter of the Karimo bleaching skin cream to take off all the advert banners. This controversial advert has strongly been criticized for the fact that it demeans the black complexion to the fair skin presented as the superior. In the following report, Flora Jingla analyzes the minister's communique.
Coucou la famille, bon retour sur ma chaîne. Moi c'est Mel Mendor.
This is a publicity banner that has sparked enough outrage amongst Cameroonians. The promoter of the Karimo mark of bleaching creams presented on a throne, seated majestically with black-skinned subjects beneath her feet, with a note by the side saying, "Put them at your feet." The advertisement campaign launched by Karimo Laboratories has brought about huge criticisms on social media platforms for an alleged message intended to promote skin bleaching. Besides, some went further to describe it as racism. Some artists and equally public figures have written saying the real problem of blacks is blacks. Others have gone as far as saying they are blacks and they are proud to be. And finally, in response to the controversy related to the advert, the general manager of Karimo Laboratories, Karin Mongwe, seized another opportunity to bounce back by promoting another skin cream meant for black skin, creating more criticism as in response to the side note which says, "We heard you." Following this spread of criticism, the Minister of Communication has reacted in a communique saying that the advert is in violation to the number 2006/018 law of December 2006, which regulates publicity in Cameroon. Article 23 further says, according to Rene Sadi, the conformity of a publicity message is determined by its decency and morality. And 24 says all messages must be exempt of racial discriminating. With regards to this, he has called on the promoter of these products to immediately end what he refers to as illicit and outrageous publicity by getting off all the banners of the campaign across the national territory and on all her social media platforms.
And now let us talk something else. Just like we got on the headlines, the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, presided over the 11th edition of the Cameroon Business Forum. About 50 participants took part in the annual forum organized within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Representatives of the public and private sectors in Cameroon's business environment have taken the commitment to contribute towards boosting the resilience of enterprises in the country. This was during the 11th session of the Cameroon Business Forum, which held at the auditorium of the Prime Minister's office in Yaoundé. The event, chaired by Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, focused on ways of strengthening the Cameroon business sector against shocks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The health crisis prompted government to postpone the forum initially scheduled for March to hold in October 2020. According to the head of government, COVID-19 is also an unprecedented socio-economic crisis that is exerting pressure on all states worldwide with devastating social, economic and political impact. Cameroon is striving to deploy crisis management and recovery strategies to avoid, mitigate and remedy the difficulties encountered to varying degrees by the actors of national economy. The lighter session of the Cameroon Business Forum, organized with about 50 members, which represents 10% of the turnout in 2019, reviewed efforts to accelerate the process of emergence. The annual meeting, devoted to the ways and means of necessary to improve the business environment in Cameroon, was held under the theme COVID-19, Proofing the Business Environment. After deliberations at the 11th session of the Cameroon Business Forum, Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, said it is necessary to continue consultations between the public and private sector. He also said the recommendations made during the session will be implemented to help improve the business climate in Cameroon. In a bid to readjust in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, which has not yet been mastered, the Ministry of Public Health and its partners have followed the instructions from the World Health Organization by launching in all its 10 regions an investigation aimed at estimating the seroprevalence of antibodies due to the COVID-19 in the body. It was launched in the city of Bafoussam, capital city of the West region, as Florent Jingla and Ebed Williams Kwamu tells us in the following report.
The West region to date has registered 1,353 positive cases of coronavirus, amongst which 1,275 have healed, 14 active cases presently, and 62 deaths, a healing to 95% and only 2% dead. According to physicians, the patients have different characteristics, diagnosed symptomatic cases and others who spontaneously got healed.
Many people are saying that in Africa, maybe we have some antibody who make us to not be affected by this disease. After this disease, we know the reality. What is the real level of contamination in the region? We have seen the number that we have shown you. And we know that many people have met the disease, but they will not even come to the hospital. We don't even know. We know after this disease what is the real level of contamination.
This has made it even more complex to decipher coronavirus in the scientific milieu. It is therefore a reason for the Ministry of Public Health and its partners in development across an investigation to estimate the seroprevalence of COVID-19 in children and adults, and equally to determine the effect on those they come in contact with as patients. On a case study of 1,000 persons, both sexes, amongst them children of more than 5 years and adults, the study will take place in populated areas and last for a period of 2 months from November to December 2020.
In the field, we have data collectors who will be installed, and we have data mobilizers, community mobilizers who will be approaching the population, sensitizing them, giving them the objectives, the importance of the survey, and they will be directed to the tents, and they will administer a questionnaire after obtaining their consent. And then after that, a small quantity of blood sample will be collected.
The Secretary General at the West Governor's Office, who proceeded to the launch of this operation, prescribed a synergy of actions from all the stakeholders concerned so as to involve everyone in this exercise. The collected results will be transmitted finally at the central level for compilation with those from other regions so as to know the sure statistics of the prevalence level of COVID-19 in Cameroon. The World Health Organization gives it a lot of importance as it will enable them to know how the coronavirus is faring.
And now, still talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, we take this update as the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has approved a sum of $156 billion disbursement to help the Cameroonian government address the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. It should be noted that this is the second disbursement so far, which is coming to aid of the emergency imposed on the Cameroonian economy as with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us now talk something else, taking you to the Southwest region of the country, as Southwest Chiefs, or the Southwest Chiefs Conference, has called on the indigents of Bulu village to respect the verdict of the Supreme Court in the land case against the University of Boya. The University of Boya is the pride of the Southwest region, and this individual's interest shouldn't supersede national interest. Nanji Pelaji for the details.
The land saga at Bulu village between the University of Boya and indigents of the village has left many fractions of Akko division expressing diverse views in the matter. It was the turn of the Southwest Chiefs Conference. As custodian of tradition, their aim is to ensure peace reigns amongst the parties in the conflict. After properly analyzing the situation, the Southwest Chiefs have taken a stance to abide by the rulings of the Supreme Court to grant the University of Boya the right to take possession of all their lands.
We, members of the Executive Council of the Southwest Chiefs Conference, wholeheartedly express our support to the Supreme Court's ruling of 3rd September 2020 in favor of the claims made by the University of Boya. These rulings granted the University of Boya the right to take possession of all of their lands which were hitherto illegally occupied. We stand by the university and are willing to provide any assistance where need be so that peace should continue to reign in this citadel of excellence.
SWEC is, however, calling on the government not to let the Bulu community go empty-handed.
We are equally appealing to the government to make compensatory allocations to the Bulu community to allow for their resettlement in all fairness.
SWEC, however, proposed a solution to the government to decentralize the faculties of the University of Boya for reasons of space.
I was in Chicago. Only the law faculty is more than what we have. Already where the university is small. Some months ago we were in the university. Well, we wrote that they should decongest the faculties in the university. There are other divisions. They should decongest, take them to other divisions.
The chiefs vehemently condemned the destruction of the property of the University of Boya and empathized with the students who were affected.
Our children of the University of Boya is because of you. That's why we are here. And we are saying that what happened, that your crops were damaged, we want to say that you people should bear with the authorities that be. They are going to take all the necessary actions and measures.
The University of Boya is the pride of the Southwest region. Thus, the Bulu community shouldn't let individual interests supersede national interest.
And now let's move down to the Northwest region of the country. As students and pupils in this region have been urged to despise the calls for schools boycott as the Secure Bright Future. The SDO of Menchu made the call while distributing basic school kit, an initiative of Honorable Walang Richard of the National Assembly, as Flora Jingla and George Eto tells us.
How good for us to be in school? Is it good? Yes, sir. How do you feel for all these 4 years I don't be going to school? Are you happy now? Yes, sir. Clap for yourself.
Joy, contentment, euphoria is just what is seen on the faces of these pupils who for over 4 years were deprived of their right to education. As a result of the Anglophone crisis, schools shut down due to calls from pro-separatist fighters. 4 years later, pupils Children and parents alike now share the reality and the necessity of education. Within the context of the crisis, untold financial hardship has been presented by parents of children of school-going age. Many of such parents saw their homes and business sites razed, while others saw their loved ones killed. This sad situation took away many breadwinners in such families, leaving the children with almost nothing to hope for. To make good the situation, the rekindled hope against all hope is the questor for Menchum South constituency, who doubles as president of the Cameroon Parliamentarians Commission to the United States House of Assembly and board member of the University of Bamenda, Honorable Wallang Richard Ebua. He holds that children are the leaders of tomorrow. This he backs by saying, we are the builders and shapers of our society. Irrespective of our predicament, no one out there will do so for us. To him, indeed, the problems will continually arise, but let the children go back to school.
It's his own way of promoting school going in Menchum South. You must understand that students and people who have not been to school for quite a long time. And this is going to act as an impetus, as a motivating factor for them to go to school. So we are so happy about what he has done.
And we promise, we the students, we promise that before next week you will see the sir said there are 25, but next week it will be more than the 25.
Our children's education cannot be used as a shield for war. To distribute the gifts on ground was the SDO for Menchum, Mohamedou Aliou, together with other education stakeholders who dished out ledgers, books, ballpoint pens, pencils, rulers, and arithmetic sets. Arithmetically, each student in the over 7 schools received 4 books, pens, pencils, and rulers each. The SDO on his part saluted the efforts of the MP, whom he says is a proof of his love and concern for his people. To this school recipient, the school administrator could not stay indifferent.
We are sure that nobody will say that he will not have a book according to what we witnessed here today. So we are very glad of what we receive, and we hope that all the students, both primary and secondary, will be encouraged to continue to go to school every day from Monday to Friday.
Honorable Wallang hopes to take the donation to Benakuma in the Menchum Valley, one of the hardest hit areas of his municipality, to ensure all and sundry benefit.
And now on to culture. Today marks exactly 12 years since the departure of Huygen Ekwala. On the 23rd of October 2008, this great Cameroonian Makossa artist of his time joined his ancestors. In the following report, Florent Jingla tells us more about his life.
12 years ago, it was announced that one of the biggest Makossa artists had passed away on this same day at the Lakentini Hospital of Douala after a protracted illness. Huygen Ekwala, by his real name Ekwala Mpuli Eugène, was a true artist and promoter of the Cameroonian culture, precisely the Sawa culture. He was born of late Mpuli Ejengele Samuel and Bango Nyame Therese. For more than 10 years, he made music lovers, especially Makossa, dance to many of his hit songs to a point where he became one of the ambassadors of his period. 12 years later, his fans still continue dancing to some of the rhythms of his songs: Ami, Mon Ami, Ongele Tomba, Vérité, Yendedi, Londo, Ando, just to name a few. These songs that many Cameroonians knew how to sing effortlessly. His beautiful voice is still to be remembered, and his musical style, which was quite peculiar, will be remembered, as no true artist takes along his music when he dies. Continue resting in peace, Huygen Ekwala.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now take you out of the country. Nigeria's president has addressed the country after more than 2 weeks of protest against police brutality. Mohamed Buhari called on the demonstrations to come to an end on the day of prison, and many other buildings in Lagos have been set on fire. Korti with Al Jazeera News.
For days, the president has been under pressure to speak to a nation on the edge. After meeting the country's top security officials on Thursday, he asked security forces to act within the confines of law to halt the rising violence across the country.
We shall continue to ensure that liberty and freedom, as well as the fundamental rights of all citizens, are protected. But remember that government also has the obligation to protect lives and properties, as well as the right of citizens to go about their daily businesses freely and protected from acts of violence.
For more than 2 weeks, demonstrators, mainly young men and women, took to the streets demanding an end to police brutality, compensation for victims, and the reform of Nigeria's police force. They also want officers guilty of extrajudicial killings, torture, and disappearances to be prosecuted and punished. In a shocking move captured on mobile phones by witnesses, security personnel used live rounds on demonstrators on Tuesday after a curfew was announced in Lagos. Obianuju Elonya has been part of the NSAS protest since it started. Her brother, missing for 12 years, was last seen in the custody of the now disbanded rogue police unit at the center of the protest. She watched the president's address on television and is personally not impressed.
The president doesn't have any respect for us. The president doesn't rate us. He doesn't think our lives are worth it. But we have to make him understand that we know what we are asking for and we are going to get what we are asking for, regardless of how he feels about it.
She said the protesters will meet and decide their next line of action. All day Thursday, security personnel were kept busy as mobs attacked police stations, looting and burning properties across the city. Here, one of Nigeria's main prisons, the Ikoyi Correctional Facility, is on fire. Security officials say they foiled an attempt to set the prisoners free. It's the 5th prison to be attacked in 3 days. In Edo, scene of the first mass prison escape, more than 1,700 prisoners are still at large. The past 2 weeks have been some of the most difficult for this nation of over 200 million people since its return to democracy in 1999. And the next few days will be critical in determining whether the president's pronouncements are enough to calm the situation. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Abuja.
And now we talk something else. Returning Lebanese Prime Minister says he will put together a government of experts who will rescue the country. There is pressure from within the country and abroad after so many attacks which have been going on. In the following report with Korti from Al Jazeera News, we get the details.
Saad Hariri has returned to power. The three-time Prime Minister was appointed to form a government after receiving enough votes from Lebanon's parliamentarians. It will be the first anniversary next week of his resignation during the unprecedented popular uprising that called for, among other things, a new leadership. That movement failed to bring change. But Hariri is promising to stop the collapse of the economy and provide a new way forward.
I thank my fellow MPs and especially those who honoured me by naming me, by forming as quickly as possible a new non-partisan government of experts with a mission of economic, financial and administrative reforms contained in the French initiative roadmap. We have a chance, possibly the last chance.
Lebanon is facing multiple crises. The economy is collapsing, the local currency crashed, there is rising poverty and unemployment. The state, which is close to bankruptcy, is in desperate need of financial assistance. The international community is conditioning aid to a reform-minded government as part of an initiative by French President Emmanuel Macron, who has been leading rescue efforts.
This political class, as we've known, does not care to listen about what the Lebanese people have been calling for since they rose up on October 17 onwards. This is part of the culmination of this counter-revolutionary effort that started from the moment people took to the streets.
Lebanon has been left with a caretaker administration since Hassan Diab resigned over the Beirut port explosion in August that killed nearly 200 people and devastated many neighborhoods in the Lebanese capital. The previous Prime Minister-designate, Mustafa Adib, was forced to step aside after failing to convince traditional parties to give up representation in cabinet. It's never an easy process in a divided political landscape where factions are allied with foreign powers.
Hariri is a favorite of the Western leaders. He's a regular in Washington and Paris. And so he is the most pro-Western leader in Lebanon. So in a way, this is a a kind of a victory for the pro-Western front in Lebanon.
Hariri may have friends in the international community, but it's the other camp, led by the pro-Iranian Hezbollah, that holds political power. Hariri's return could be a step towards a deal, but for now, it doesn't signal an end to Lebanon's political crisis. Zana Khudur, Al Jazeera.
Ladies and gentlemen, this draws the curtains of this edition of the 5:30 Primary News over La Télévision du Monde. Thank you for always trusting this forum of information. At 7:45 p.m., Priscille Messene will come up with more prepared on our information decks for the news in the French language. Until then, do have a pleasant weekend. Bye-bye.
Today I don't feel like doing